Hello, internet people. I am back with another video. Today we're going to do something that isn't server pod specific. So bring any Flutter app to the table and this will hopefully help you through. In fact, it's not even really Flutter specific. You're building an app in React Native, you're building an app in native iOS code, whatever. This will mostly be applicable. But yeah, obviously it's, for Flutter. So what we're going to be doing today is learning how to upload your app to the App Store. Now, we're not going to go through the whole submission process yet because this app is not ready. It's not ready to go. And in fact, we also need to get our backend running in the cloud for this to even work, but that'll be a video coming up soon. But I just want to go through the process of actually getting it up because there's some things that we need to share with our friends, to be able to make a test flight. Also, things like push notifications and stuff, you kind of need to at least have some of this stuff set up ahead of time. So we're just going to go through and do it. All right. So I have everything running like normal at the start of the stream, but we're not going to do too much in code today. There'll be probably a couple little things, some configuration, but mostly we're going to get into the iOS App Store. So I'm logged into App Store Connect. Of course, if you don't have this yet, you need an Apple developer account. You probably already have one if you're building Flutter apps, unless you only care about Android. But this one, we're going to focus on Apple. I'm just a little more familiar with it. We will be doing Android in the next video. So I've just logged in. I'm in my app section, and you can see I have all these lovely apps here. Some, live, some just, haven't seen the light of day, or have been moved to other organizations, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm going to go and we're going to actually make a new app. So new app. And we're going to specifically pick iOS. Now, of course, if your app is cross-platform and you want a Mac OS, tvOS, Vision OS app, I do have a Vision OS app actually in the App Store, which is kind of cool. Then, of course, you can check those too. That way you can have, sort of like a universal app, one binary to rule them all. But we're just going to be doing iOS naturally for this. So we're going to give this a name, and we're just going to call it, I'm actually going to call it the Open Mic app. Yes, we don't have a real good name yet for this, but this is cool for me. We're going to want to pick our primary language. I'm going to pick English US. Of course, in your app, you can have multiple languages. And then we need to have a bundle ID. So actually, I realized we probably missed a step here. I think I might already have one here, but I'll show you how to do it if we don't. Let me just see. Maybe I haven't made it yet, in which case we can do it for real. So your bundle ID is kind of like a unique identifier for your app. You can, more or less use any name, but the bundle identifier is like your unique sort of thing. So let's actually get that set up here and go through this process again. Let me just give this one more look to make sure I don't see anything about Open Mic in here. I do not. Okay, so for this, we'll just close that. So we're going to go to developer.apple.com, which is a little bit different than App Store Connect. And we're going to make sure we're logged in by clicking account. Seems I am. And then we're going to make sure we're in the right organization that we want to be using. And I need to then find this thing. We have certificates, IDs, and profiles. So we're going to go to identifiers here. Although from that, you can basically get to all these things. And here we're going to actually make our bundle identifier. So this will be an app ID. There's many other kind of identifiers, but we want an app ID one. It's going to be an app. And we're going to give it a name. Now, it's good practice to use sort of like your reverse.com. That's a good way to know it's unique because if, it's kind of based on your own domain, unless someone went and just took it. And we're going to use, we're going to give it a description. So we'll just call it like our Open Mic app. That's fine. And for this, we'll do com.tylersavory.openmic. And here's where you might want to enable some things. Now, you can change these later, but I don't think there's anything we really care about right now because even, I think at one point, push notifications were something in here. Let me see. Push. Oh, they are. Yeah. Okay, so let's enable push notifications. I don't really know what broadcast capability is, so we won't worry about that. And let's also enable, what's the other one? Sign in with Apple. This is something we will want at some point. So we'll click continue. Make sure everything looks good, and we'll go and register it. Okay, cool. So now we have our identifier. We can go back here. Now, unfortunately, it will not just automatically refresh here. So we do need to go here, and just for good measure, I'm just going to do a full refresh. I'm not sure when that data gets loaded. And we will go here, and we'll do the same thing again. So we're going to call it the Open Mic app. I kind of like that name. It's very obvious. And again, English. I'll choose US. And bundle ID, I'm going to want to look through here for our Open Mic app right here. And for SKU, I'm not even entirely sure what to do with this, but it's like a unique ID for your app. I guess if you're doing multiple apps and you wanted to know analytics, I don't know, but we'll just call it like open mic app. Anyone in the comments want to throw like, what to do with that? I've just always put something kind of random. And we'll just do, this is user access in terms of other users in your organization. I'm just going to do limited access and make sure only myself can see it and people who are admin, finance, and reporting. Why not? You can, of course, choose full access if you're the only person on this, et cetera, et cetera. All right, great. So now we're going to get this stuff. Now we will go back to our code, and specifically on the Flutter side, because we don't, the server doesn't care anything about the app stores, at least until we get to doing subscriptions and stuff. But what we want to do is actually modify some things. And actually, you could do this. You could find your way through VS Code to do this by going into your iOS folder and finding the various files. But generally, it's better just to open up Xcode. And we'll do that right now. And wait for Xcode to load, of course, and have a sip of our drink. There it is. And I don't know if we actually have ever opened this in Xcode before, so we're going to go and open existing project. And we're going to make sure we go back to where our open mic project is. And specifically, we're going to the Flutter folder, but then we're going to go into the iOS folder. And very importantly, you don't want to choose your runner.xcode project. You want to do the xc workspace, because this has like context for all your pod files and stuff. So this is the one we actually open. You don't want to open the main one. All right. So now we will click on runner on the left-hand side. That's just what Flutter decided to kind of call the app. And right now we'll see com.example.openMicFlutter, but we want to make this the same as our bundle identifier that we set up. So I can click this little button here, and we can actually go com.tylersavory.openmic. And if we click off somewhere, maybe just tab, should be good. We have that. Let's just make sure that's the right one. Somewhere on this page, or maybe it's in app info, we should see our bundle identifier. Oh, bundle ID. Yep, there it is. Bundle ID. com.tylersavory.openmic. That seems to be the right one. Great. Okay, cool. So let's just take a look at some stuff in here just so people kind of know how this works. So I'm looking at, and we'll just go back to the start. So I come in, and I can find the Open Mic app. I'm starting to like this name now that I see it like this. And when you're on the main screen, you're looking at the version that you're either most recently submitted, it might be approved, or you're looking at the draft. Right now it's a draft. You can see it's yellow. And we could just go click add for review, but we're missing things. It's going to give us a bunch of warnings. Here's where we're going to put our screenshots eventually. Here's where we're going to put our promotional text. This is actually one of the only fields in the iOS App Store that you can actually change ongoingly without doing a submission. Whereas if you want to change your description or keywords or support URL or the binary or the screenshots or anything else, you basically need to do a whole new submission, a new binary essentially. So we have some stuff like marketing URLs, versions, app clip. This is something I've never really touched before, but it's, I think, like those sort of like mini apps that can be embedded in a website or like show up in a website. Like I think things like Uber and Starbucks make use of those, and it's pretty cool. Okay, we don't care about the iMessage app. There's no iMessage app for this. And then this is where we would do our build. So in the olden days, you would actually come here and upload the build, but now Xcode sort of has the full submission process, which we'll see in a bit. So there we go. And then app review information. If we needed a sign-in for our tester, we would create them one and give them the username and password here. We need some information. We might want to give them some notes like, hey, this is a test build, whatever. And then you might want to have an attachment explaining something. And then importantly, I always have this to manually release for this version. I want to wait for, it can take a few hours, 24 hours, 48 hours sometimes for it to be approved. I don't want it to just kind of go out when it's ready. I want to be notified it's ready and then, basically manually do it. So I pretty much always have this to manual on any of my apps. So that's sort of the main page. There's some various app information. Let's actually save that change. Various app information here. So we give it its name, its subtitle, and keep in mind everything you do can be localized. So we only have US, but we can add more locale or locale, sorry, and be able to sort of change like what is it in Spanish, what is it in French, all that kind of stuff. We can also give things a category. Let's just do that right now while we're here. So I think music is probably a good category, but I think like part of me thinks like it's, is there something for like events? Nothing for events that I'm seeing. Let's do music. And then we have secondary. Now, something that's funny that you might think, oh, this is going to be a bunch of things like about music, but secondary is actually the exact same list. It basically just allows you to take the same category list and choose one as like your primary and one as a secondary. So maybe secondary could be social networking, I feel like makes sense. Let's do that. We're not going to worry about age rating right now. There's a lot of this stuff that us to get this up into the App Store from a test flight point of view, like basically beta testing, we don't necessarily have to do, but there's things you pretty much have to do to get it all the way. Okay, cool. And then yeah, app review, this just tells you what is in review right now. Nothing is. We can see a history, cool. And then there's stuff for your privacy. Pretty self-explanatory. We can see all of our ratings and reviews. We don't have any yet. I would hope. It'd be kind of crazy if we already had a review. And some stuff on analytics and some stuff on monetization, which will all come in the future. So there's your little tour of this. You'll notice there's another nav right here. This is where we do most of our stuff. TestFlight is where we can see all of our builds that are available for testers, which we don't have any yet, and we can create our testing groups. And Xcode Cloud, also something I've never really experimented with, but essentially you can set up like CI/CD with your with your Flutter projects essentially to actually build in the cloud, and I guess the whole release process I would think could be done that way. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, something I can't speak too much about. All right, what is next? Let's actually get something to show up here. So we're gonna go back to Xcode. And what we want to do is go and choose this. A lot of the time you'll see the simulator picked, but what we really want is something like called any iOS device right here. And what we'll do next is go product and we'll go archive. And what this is going to do is actually going to do a build of our Flutter app, of the iOS Flutter app as an archive, not as an actual building to a simulator or building to your device, but essentially an IPA file, which is the app file that everything the App Store understands. So we're going through this, depending on the size of your project, can take anywhere from a minute to 5 minutes, depending on your computer as well. But it looks like judging by this progress bar, it's looking like it's pretty close. But I don't trust progress bars because they are just usually the best guess of anything. And in order for a progress bar to be completely accurate, it would actually they'd have to have a progress bar probably to like load the progress bar to determine how long it would take. So just add more time. That's my fun fact for the day as we're waiting for this to build. There's some cool videos. Tom, now I can't remember his name right now, but one of the best explainers out there does a whole video on like why progress bars are not accurate, and it's an entertaining watch for sure. Okay, so there we go. Build succeeded. Now what this is going to do is launch up our organizer, and this will have all of our archives. And it actually you can go between your different apps and whatever, but it's going to pick the one that you have open right now. And now what we go is we do distribute app, and we want to pick App Store Connect. Now say you just wanted to get this on your device, but not through not through just like building. You could go to custom here. This is just like a side quest, and you can go to debugging, or sorry, actually, no, it's not. I thought there was an export option. Maybe I'm just thinking of Mac apps let you do that. Sorry about that. Debugging. Okay, I'm not sure then. We will skip that side quest and go to App Store Connect. And we will click distribute. And now what it's doing is it's signing your assets. Basically, like, without getting too much into cryptography and stuff, everything about your app is being essentially like signed by all your certificates and things like that, to make it so that the App Store knows and verifies it's you and not just someone that got your login. Now, of course, if they got all your stuff, in theory, they could sign it on your behalf. But yeah, everything you can see, all of our foundational core things are being signed, and it's going up. So yeah, we'll just let this kind of go. All right, and it's up there now. That took a couple minutes. I did pause the recording just because, didn't think people would want to sit here watching me watch this thing. But there we go. And I guess you can click Show in App Store Connect. That's new. So let's just click that, sure. And it just opens App Store Connect, so it didn't really help us at all because we already had it open. But let's go to TestFlight now. Now, don't panic. You might not see this in here yet, although I guess pretty quickly you see version 1.0.0. But there's nothing in here yet, and that's just because Apple's doing some stuff in the background. In a couple minutes, if we refresh, we should see that there's one in here that's going to be in a processing state. And let's see if it's true. I will say that App Store Connect can be pretty buggy and slow, including their app. All right, let's just maybe click a couple things and see if we get it. Neither here nor there. There we go. So one, processing. We have, the default Flutter icon because we haven't done anything with our icons yet. We don't really have a brand, so whatever. It's fine. But it's processing, and this can take, on average, I'd say about like 20 minutes. Now, in the meantime, what we can do is actually set up our internal testing. So there's two kinds of testing. There's like your external testing and internal testing in App Store Connect. Internal testing is nice because it doesn't actually have to go through any review process at all. So this is usually what I use with my key stakeholders on a project, because I don't want to have to be like, I finished that thing that you wanted to see and then wait a while for it to actually be ready. So you can actually add them. The only downside of internal groups is it's a little more effort for the other person to set up. They have to accept an invite to TestFlight, and then or to App Store Connect. They have to do all this stuff. You have to actually make them kind of like a user in here. Unless that's changed. This looks a little bit different than I remember. But the good thing is, as soon as the build gets up here and gets past the processing state, they can have access to it. Versus you can make like the external testers. So let's just go here and let's just make our main testers. And yeah, we'll enable automatic distribution. And here we go. We have this. So let's see. We have testers all, main testers. And this is where our builds would show up. And then we can actually add a tester. So I'm going to actually add a secondary email of mine just so I can see it from a different perspective. And we'll go add. But of course, no builds are available yet. Let's go back to our builds and see how this is going. All right. So we have to kind of wait a bit to see this in action. But let's just go back to distribution. Because I just want to kind of speak to the things a little bit more in detail of what you really need to submit this thing. And we're not going to do that. I don't have this stuff ready yet, but let's talk about this. So iPhone screenshots. You need at least these two different aspect ratios. Now, there are really great tools online. Xcode notification. Okay, cool. There are tools you can find, and I highly recommend them. I'm not going to sell one over the other, but they'll help you sort of generate these from like a normal size. They'll do like the resizing and stuff for you, and they have the tools to put little text and everything. Keep in mind, if you have multi languages, you do need to make different ones for each, and you will be rejected if you have English in your Spanish one. So keep that in mind. Every language is going to add more effort to your release process. Also, if you are set to be an iPad app, which probably we are. I think that's the default now in Xcode. Let's just see to remember where it is. Runner. I'm just going to figure out where this is. I think it's in general. Yeah, iPad orientation. So I forget where to actually set. I think you can just turn all these off and then you are an iPad and you're good. Or maybe you can't turn them all off. Let's see. Yeah, there is a way. To turn off a universal app. That's out of the scope for this video. Oh, I guess it's right here. Destinations. You would want to remove this and this basically. Now, here's the thing though. If you ever release if you make your app an iPad app, like you allow iPad, and then in the future you're like, you know what, I don't want to support this anymore. You're stuck. You have to keep submitting binaries. You'll get an error being like, hey, this used to support iPad, you can't take that feature away. Versus when you just have an iPhone mode, iPads can still install it. They just get that 2x thing. Now we're in the Flutter world, so you should probably just think about iPad. It's pretty easy to do if you're building stuff responsibly. So I'm not saying don't make iPad, but that's just something I ran into at one point where I was sick of dealing with the different sizes and stuff, and most people were just using the iPhone app, not an iPad app, and I was like, I'm just going to turn that off, and I was like, no, you can't. So keep that in mind. And you have to make those screenshots too. Now, how do you make screenshots the best way for your iPhone? In my opinion, you actually use the simulator. You know, go to the screens that you want, and you just do Command S on your Mac, and this will actually save to your desktop at the right resolution, as long as you're using the proper device. So make sure this is a iPhone 15. That's probably fine. Just double check all the sizes and stuff before you get too far. But if you are using one of those tools that lets you do it, just get it at high res. And of course, the iPhone simulator does have an iPad simulator too. So you can go here, open simulator, and choose an iPad Pro or just an iPad Air, and that way you can get those other sizes and those rotations and everything that you might want. This stuff's all required. Promotional text I don't think is required. Keywords, yeah. So you're gonna have to do all that stuff. You're gonna need some kind of support URL. So even if you just set up a Squarespace for your app, something that you can actually like have that on, you will need that sort of thing. Your version number, that actually comes when you upload your binary. So for instance, let's just see. Okay, this is ready. Now, okay, I'm seeing this warning, missing compliance. This is a common thing you'll see when you're uploading your first app, because I didn't think about it. But it's basically asking me about cryptography. Are you using like encryption and all this kind of stuff? And we're going to say none of these are being used. We're not encrypting our data, and we'll just click save. Now, all that's good. It says ready to submit. We're cool to go. If you want to omit that from happening again, there is something you can put in your plist to do that. I'm just going to Google it real quick. Xcode disable encryption plist, something like that. This is it. Yeah. Yeah. So you can Google this, but it's app uses non-encryption, set it to false. You can also look. You can do that right in your plist as code, or you can look inside your Xcode for this setting. And then you won't actually have to do that every time. Because now when I upload the next one, I'm actually going to have that issue. And you know what? Let's just do this now so we don't do that. So we're going to go to Xcode, or I can just do it right in here. So we'll go to our info.plist for iOS, and we'll just put it down at the bottom here. And we'll have a key. This should be inside a dict, though, I think. This doesn't look right. Oh, no, it is. Oh, yeah, we're good. It's just a key with a value of false. There we go. So now the next time we do a build, we won't see that warning. So I recommend doing that, because sometimes you're like waiting for the TestFlight to come. You're waiting. You're like, I haven't got the notification yet. And then all of a sudden, like, you're like, oh, I forgot to click that button. Okay, so now this is here. If we go back to distribution and we let it load, we go to the build section. We'll click this, and we'll actually choose that build. And what we're going to see magically, if I click done, is we'll actually get, if I save this, I think, let's see. Oh, maybe it doesn't automatically. Okay, I'll make this 1.0.0. I do like using semantic versioning, so 1 being like a major, this being a minor, and this being a patch. So as you're putting apps out, you kind of, say you do a huge overhaul, like it's almost like your 2.0, it's new colors, like new features, new functionality. This would come to like a 2.0 kind of thing. If it was just like, oh, we added this new quality of life feature, now it's 1.1. Oh, we fixed a bug, it's 1.0.1. That's just, good practice in software distribution. Now the app icon, that's out of scope for this, but this would be the app icon that you've actually set up properly. And yeah, this stuff is not required, but if you need a username and password, you're gonna have to do it, and so on and so forth. Now, if I try to add to review now, like, I'm not gonna really do this because our app's not gonna go, but you're gonna kind of see some of these warnings. It's not gonna like just be like, nah, it's gonna tell you what's wrong. So for instance, there's stuff to do with our screenshots, content rights, contact information, like there's a lot of things we haven't done yet, as well as our support URL, keywords. So this will give you a hand. You won't be lost completely. It's a pretty good platform, and it's even telling me what I need to do. So yeah, there we go. Now that doesn't stop us from doing TestFlight. So we can go back to our TestFlight here and go to our main testers, and we can choose this build, and it's already set to testing, and this person's been invited to it. So I would just have to check my email with this, click the accept, and then get TestFlight, and I'd be able to download this. So yeah, that's basically it. Now, like I said, there's more to do to actually fully submit this, but I think this kind of covers the flow of at least getting it up into App Store Connect, and so on and so forth. Now, some key things I want to mention with App Store submission. If it's your first app, you will be rejected the first time. I guarantee it. If you don't, write in the comments, let me know, because I'll be very proud of you. It's really hard to get it right on the first time. So definitely, if you're doing something for a client and like a hard deadline of being live is a thing, like you're going to want to submit probably weeks before that. things can go wrong. You might get rejected. You might have to make a huge change. Some things that come to mind are like a lot of the time you'll get in trouble. Hey, my app has just like you land on it and it's like a login screen. And that's not something we have with our app. Our app has a guest mode, so I've been thinking about that. We want this app to work, without a login. But if your app is just like, hey, create an account, and that's all you have, that's the only thing you can do, you'll probably, depending on the tester, you're probably going to get rejected. If you get into doing subscriptions and stuff, that is a whole that is a whole ballpark in its own, where all your metadata of your subscriptions, what it offers, the pricing, all how you can cancel it, all that kind of stuff is very important, and is a huge amount of work to make sure you get past that. Obviously, all the stuff I was showing, like having links to your proper privacy policy, giving access to a test account if that's required, even your screenshots. Like a lot of the time, like they'll know if you just took for your iPad screenshot, if you just blew it up and stretched it out, like you'll get rejected for that too. So there's a lot of things. Even the funniest thing I think I got rejected for once is I had the word iPhone in, I think it was in the app subtitle. So right here, it was like the best iPhone app for blah 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 or whatever, and we got rejected because it was like that's like a trademark of Apple. Now I thought that was kind of funny. We're just saying good things about the iPhone, and we're saying this is the best thing for the iPhone, but we got rejected. So there's things like that. In the comments, leave any other horror stories you have of funny reasons why you might got rejected. But I just wanted to say you probably will. Also, when you're submitting your app the first time, usually the review process is a bit longer for the app in my experience, so budget some time there. Whereas subsequent updates usually will be okay, especially if you're just incrementing. I don't know if they pay attention to it, but I've kind of noticed when I do, like if it's going from 1.0 to 2.0, it's a longer process than you're going from like 1.00 to 1.01. I don't know if they're paying attention. It could just be a coincidence, but that can definitely make things a bit faster, just not going to those next versions, at least what I've seen. Yeah, I'll leave it there for this video. I'm hoping that this was helpful for those Flutter devs out there, and really devs in general, because I don't even think we touched any Flutter code in this video, so this is applicable to anyone who can at least load Xcode and has an app ready to go. Cool. So I'll leave it with you, and definitely let me know what you think. And we're going to cover Google next.